You never think a job could put you in a position to save someone's life. I sure didn't. But one night, with a pizza box in my hand, heading out for what I thought was just another delivery, fate had something else planned. What was behind that door changed everything for me, and the choice I had to make, it's a moment I'll never forget. The night started out like any other. I'd been working deliveries for a while, not because I loved it, but because it paid the bills. I was down to my last order of the night, and all I could think about was heading home, kicking back, and maybe binging something on Netflix. The address was in this quiet, kind of sketchy part of town. You know, the type of neighborhood where the streetlights barely work, and everything feels just a little too quiet. I pulled up, parked my bike, and grabbed the pizza box. The house looked old, the kind of place that's seen better days. I walked up to the door, rang the bell once, then twice. Nothing. Okay, maybe they didn't hear me, I thought. I knocked. Still nothing. But there was a light on inside. Someone was definitely home. I was about to call it a night, leave the pizza on the porch and go, when I noticed something. From under the door I could see an ankle, a foot. At first I wasn't sure what I was looking at, but then it moved, barely, like it was struggling. My chest tightened. Something was definitely wrong. I pulled out my phone, about to call the cops, when suddenly a piece of paper slid out from under the door. It was handwritten and said just 2 words, "Don't go." I froze. My heart was pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. Don't go? What the hell did that mean? Was it a warning? A plea for help? My gut told me someone in there needed me, but my brain was screaming, this could be a trap. I called the police anyway. The operator told me to stay put, that a unit was on the way. But waiting wasn't exactly my strong suit. Every second felt like hours. My eyes kept darting to the note, the light spilling out from under the door, and the faint movement of that foot. I couldn't just stand there. Screw it. I had to do something. I braced myself and threw my shoulder against the door. It wasn't easy, but I knew I couldn't stand by and do nothing. After trying a few times, the lock gave way, and the door finally opened as I called out, "Is anyone here? I'm here to help." What I saw next hit me like a punch to the gut. There was a woman lying on the floor, pale as a ghost, barely breathing. Next to her was an empty pill bottle, and the room carried a faint medicinal smell, adding to the tension. My hands were shaking, but I crouched down to check her pulse. It was weak, but she was still holding on. Next to her was a crumpled piece of paper. It had a few words scrawled across it. "I need help. I can't do this alone." As I knelt there, trying to figure out what to do next, I noticed something else, a faint sound. At first, I thought it was my own breathing, but no. It was coming from her phone, lying just a few feet away. The screen was cracked, but the faint hum of a voicemail notification buzzed over and over. It was chilling. Someone had been trying to reach her, likely unaware of what was happening inside. I picked up the phone, hesitant. Should I answer? What if it was someone who could help? Or worse, what if it was someone connected to why she was in this state? I decided against answering and instead focused on her, trying to keep her stable until help arrived. The moments dragged on as I kept checking her pulse, talking to her even though she was unresponsive, hoping somehow my voice might pull her back. The sound of sirens in the distance finally broke the silence. Relief washed over me as paramedics burst in and took over. Watching them work was surreal. One of the officers asked me questions about what I'd seen and how I got in. When I mentioned the note, they exchanged looks that made my stomach churn. "She's lucky you showed up," one of the paramedics said, glancing at me as they loaded her onto a stretcher. A little longer, and this would have ended differently. Driving home that night, my mind wouldn't stop racing. I couldn't shake the image of her lying there, or the feeling of that note in my hand. Don't go. Why had she written it? Why didn't she just yell for help? Maybe she didn't have the strength, or maybe writing those 2 words was all she could manage. Whatever the reason, it stuck with me. The next day I called the hospital to check on her. They couldn't give me much information, but they did say she was stable. That word, stable, felt like a small victory in the chaos of the night before. I never found out more about her story, what had pushed her to the edge, or how she was doing after that night. But one thing became crystal clear. We never know the impact our actions can have on someone else. That one decision to stay, to push past fear, had made all the difference. Sometimes life throws us into situations we're not prepared for. And sometimes those situations remind us that even small acts of courage can have ripple effects we may never fully understand.